Hello guys, welcome to my channel. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you're new here, you're welcome. I hope you subscribe. Today I want to talk about the career that I studied for. The story begins in high school. After those parades where you'll be threatened to write your career, your future career on top of your desk, and you're not sure what you want to be when you grow up. When I was in high school, I was not sure what I wanted to become when I grew up. I didn't know what to choose. Plus, at that time, the only careers that are doctor, accountant, nurse, teacher, and no one wanted to become a teacher at the time. So I remember writing accountant, but I was not feeling it that much. It's just that what else can I pick? Because if I'm choosing medicine, that means I have to pass. I was an above average student, but I didn't want to put that pressure on myself. So I decided accountant. It didn't look like it needed one to pass that well, and like medicine. But towards the end of high school, somehow I decided I wanted to do dentistry for some reason. I don't know which reason. So I used to tell myself during the holidays that I should research and know what exactly a dentist does, how the kind of grades that you're supposed to get so that you can get into that course. But I didn't ever research. It was a nice career though, to tell people what do you when they ask me what do you want to be when you grow up, a dentist. And it stuck because I was actually working towards that. I remember when we were choosing courses, that's what I wanted, but I didn't make the cutoff. So I had to settle for something else. And parallel was not an option because, yeah, it's expensive. So I thought about it. At this point, I didn't even have guidance because we are choosing with my mom. Nah, I didn't have guidance the way I should have had. Like, I needed someone to guide me at the time, but it is what it is. So I was thinking, now that I can't do medicine, I can't do become a dentist, then what else can I do? And okay, one of the reasons why I had decided on dentist was because I was good in biology in high school. I loved biology, but I was struggling with chemistry, so I don't know what I would have done had I been picked for that course. Now I needed a plan B. I thought about it, and business was not hard in high school. I did business. So I decided to pick BCom because I did well in my KCSE. I had an A minus, so BCom I had met the cutoff point for BCom, and that's what I chose alongside other courses. I remember I had such a hard time deciding on which courses to pick. I had a notebook back then. This is what I was writing on. So my first option was BCom, and I was called in to do BCom in the first university that I chose. So it was okay. I didn't feel bad about it. I was not really excited. It was just like okay. Plus, I didn't know what else I would have done, even if I wasn't that excited about BCom at the time. So I went to the university, I did BCom. It was a 4-year course. BCom has 4 options, but in first year, second year, it's like you don't specialize, you specialize from I think third year. So there's HR, BCom finance, BCom accounts, and marketing. When it was time to specialize, I didn't want to do HR just because I felt it would have been easy, and I wanted something that would have challenged me, something that had figures in it, mathematics and marketing seemed too easy in theory, but I didn't think it's something I would have been comfortable with in practice. So my two options were either finance or accounts. Accounts was a little bit difficult for me because you have to balance account. Okay, you don't have to balance accounts. You'll get marks even if your accounts are not balancing. But the anxiety, like it is not balanced. Am I sure I'm going to get any marks on this? It was too much pressure. So I decided to do finance because finance had a bit of theory and a bit of maths, and the math was just, accounts, it's one question with 20 marks. At least for finance, the questions are broken down. So if you're missing on part A, then you can at least get B and C. Unlike accounts where you have to struggle with the question from the beginning. Okay, the theory part of it is quite easy, but not the accounts themselves are difficult. Plus, I thought if I was ever to do CPA is more of accounts than finance, then I will have both finance and CPA. So I decided to do finance at the time. When I was in campus, I will see people doing CPA alongside the degree. I thought that would have been too much pressure for me because sometimes the CPA exams would fall when we had internal cuts or main exams, and now you're studying for both CPA and cuts or main exam. That was too much pressure. And I would see their notes. CPA looked difficult because the questions were huge and intense. So I decided to just wait it out. I just did degree. And I did well because second upper is not that bad. Somehow I thought I would get a first class just because I had not failed that bad on any of the papers. My lowest grade had been a C, and I didn't get any supplementaries, but I got a second upper. I think everything just averaged to that. Plus, I was not in any extracurriculum activities except for the CU that I write in my CV. Yeah, so after graduation, okay, no, before graduation, I needed to do attachment. So I had two options. I would have gone where my mom works, or I had another contact who would have taken me in for the attachment. I just wanted to be where my mother was. I remember even on the day when I was going to town, I knew I'm going for my internship where my mom works. And then she calls me in the morning. She's like, I think you should just go to the other place because if you come here, you'll just be here for the attachment period. Like it's 100% certain that they won't retain you past the attachment period. So it's like, okay, but I really wanted to come there. So I went to the other place, which was a good decision because after the attachment, I got an internship position, and it was really good experience for me. So the attachment was in the account section, and it was okay. Although I did finance, I had the basics because it's basic accounts that I was studying in business in high school, plus BCom itself before you specialize as a bit of account. So I had the background. I remember when I was going in for my attachment, I was anxious because I'd never been in an office before. People who were in offices looked serious, like they knew what they were doing. I was so nervous, but my boss was the most patient person ever. I sort of started my attachment immediately, while others maybe were still looking or will start a week later. So when I went in day one and went back home, in the evening. I was still living around the school, and my friends were like, "What did you spend the day doing?" I told them I was told to organize some files, and they were like, "See, I told you, she will just have spent the day organizing files." I was so green. What? I had studied computer in, okay, like that period after high school, but that was it. I wasn't using a computer that much in campus in a trauma. Like, yes, I knew how to use Word and a bit of Excel, but not the proficiency level required for an office setting. So my boss, my supervisor taught me all that. Gosh, I just laugh at myself remembering how great I was. During my attachment period, I decided to do CPA part time. I was ready for CPA now, but I knew because I have already graduated, then I will get exemptions. And I got some exemptions and I did the rest of the units. I will go for evening classes, and that was okay. It worked well for me. I didn't get any retake. I finished my CPA and I was a CPA finalist, but I didn't register with ISPAC. All this time when I'm doing my internship attachment, uh, I knew this course doesn't excite me as much, even the job itself. Like, I'm okay with the practical bit of the job, where it's routine work. Like, I know what I'm doing and it's fine, I'm getting better at it, but I was not interested in the theory part, the policies, the decision making. I just wanted to be told what to do and just do it. A typical employee, the very mechanical bit of the work. The rest of the work where I needed to make decisions was super stressful for me, because it meant then I will need to learn about other aspects of the business, and I was not that much interested. It was a good challenge, but I was not interested really. As much as I knew I was not that interested, I didn't know what else I will do. So I was okay with it, and then it was somehow flexible. Like, it wasn't a strict 8 to 5. I will get in maybe at 9, get out at 4. On days when I need to do other things, then I'm not, formally asking for permission to be out of the office. It was easy, so it was also easy for me to, live through the weeks, live through the days. I used to look forward to the weekends. I think everyone does, but I used to live for the weekends, because the weekdays was just living through to get to the weekends. My internship came to an end, but I was still good at my job, and there was still work to be done. So I will get called in when it was busy to assist with work. That means I was working part time. There were days where I was not going to the office. So, as much as I had something to do on the days where I was not going to the office, I didn't know what to do with my time. I felt unproductive. As much as I was finding things to fill my time with, I didn't feel productive the way I would have wanted to at the time, because my mindset was on an 8 to 5, going to work in the morning, coming back home in the evening, and resting on the weekends. So having a full day where I'm the one to manage my time and it's a weekday, everyone is at work, I felt some type of way about it. I was relaxed during the weekends and public holidays, because I knew everyone else was at home and they were resting, but it used to disturb me during the weekdays when I don't feel like I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I started applying for jobs, and I remember coming across a company that recruits for employers. I dropped my CV. I was called in for an interview and I did well at the interview and I got the job. It was an events company. They hire out events equipment, seats, tables, the tablecloths, anything events, tents, floors. It was okay, I will say. The salary was a basic 30,000 net, and it was not that far from home. But I will have to go in during weekends on Saturdays, and it's not a guaranteed half day because it's an event company. That means they are mostly busy during the weekends. So that's working 6 days in a week and only having a day to rest on Sundays. I went in for a week and I was like, no, I don't think I can do this. And remember, I still have the other job where I go in to do work part time. So I negotiated that they let me work there part time, and then on days that I'm needed in the other office, I can go and then come back. Their problem, okay, they said it would have been a problem because there was no fixed schedule that you're working here 3 days and then going there for 2 days, but also they wanted someone full time. The accounts work was not that much, but they wanted someone who will be involved in the other aspects of the business, not just accounts. So I didn't go through with it. I only went in for a week, and then after quitting, I held on to my part-time job. I continued feeling unproductive. I was still doing businesses at the time. I was selling clothes. Okay, that's just that one business. But it was not busy. And I felt as if I wouldn't have dedicated 100% of my time to it because when there is work, I will even be called in the morning, like, come in today. So maybe I had planned to do something on that day and then I have to abandon that and go to the office. So I felt as if the part-time job was my first priority. I was not able to prioritize my business at the time, and my mind was fully on employment. I didn't think that I could do entrepreneurship full time. After a while, I got a contract with a client of the place where I was interning. And now this was a strict 8 to 5, but my advantage was being that not a client with a service provider, being that my former place of employment was now our client, then I was familiar with what they did and I was given that contract to manage. The work was manageable. As much as it was a new position, a new workplace, the work was manageable because of the familiarity. It was a strict 8 to 5, 8 to 5 every day. If you want to attend to something, you must apply for leave days a week in advance, 5 days in advance. It was difficult for me. Like, I have a work ethic. I don't have a problem going in to work at the required time and clocking out at the required time, but I was miserable. I didn't enjoy the work, not because of the nature of the work. I think I started realizing that this field, like, I had been in it for a few years and I had been doing the same thing. Obviously, there comes a need for growth, and I was struggling with the growth. I didn't feel like learning other aspects. of the business as I needed to. I didn't have the enthusiasm to. Some things you just have to learn because now you're on the job, but I was outside. Other than just managing the client who was my previous employer, now I needed to learn other aspects of the business. It was a consultancy firm, so I needed to study. I needed to learn proposal writing, a lot of things, and they were difficult for me because I was mostly just uninterested, disinterested. I did my best at the job. I stayed for a while, and then I decided to take my leave days towards the end of the year, and I came across a short course on travel and tourism, and I was like, you know what, let me just take this course. It was around 3,000 and it would have gone for 3 weeks, and my leave was for 2 weeks, and it was for 3 days in a week. So 2 weeks would have been during my leave, and then the 1 week I would have figured out what to do. So I took up the course, and it was really, really interesting. At the end of the course, I somehow knew what I want to do with my life. Like, I realized I don't want this finance stroke accounts thing. I want to go to travel and tourism. It came as a surprise to me somehow, but I had been traveling since I cleared campus. Like, I think I have used 70% of my savings on travels. Like, I work for travels, I live for travels, I love traveling so much. So after the course, I was like, you know what, I can really do this full time. Like, my mind is not in that job. I am not doing them justice by being there. And since it's a relatively new position for me, I'll need to learn a lot of things pertaining it. How about I just come start on this, whatever I need to learn, then I will still have time to learn instead of forcing myself to learn things that I'm not really interested in. Then I should just come and figure this out. The thing about me, once my mind is set on something, nowadays I'm learning to take time to really think about it, to look at my options and the consequences of each of them. But if my mind is set, I'll just deal with the consequences. But it's easier having mapped out the probable consequences of my actions so that they don't surprise me. After my leave, I went back to the job. I remember I was on a probation period and my probation had come to an end, so I was going to be confirmed for the position. I wrote an email asking them to confirm me, and they said they will confirm me, so they needed to write a letter of confirmation. But I was like, okay, it will look bad if I leave them to write the letter, and I've already set my mind that I am not staying, so I might just, tell them to hold off on the letter. And I said, I don't think this is it for me. I remember our boss telling us to look at the various aspects of the business. A consultancy firm has finance, proposal writing, idea generation. It has different aspects of the business, like to look at the different aspects and see which area one is comfortable with so that you do something that you're really interested in. And that got me thinking. I was like, I am not interested in any bit of this. Like, it's nice to learn new things, it's challenging, but if I'm not interested, then I'm also not doing myself justice by being here. Now thinking about leaving the work was a whole other thing because you have a salary, you have a schedule, you have a system, you know what your day looks like from morning to evening, you know what next year will look like for you if you're still in that position. But how will life look like outside of that? So I was thinking about quitting the job altogether, leaving the 8 to 5 and figuring things out. And that will be another episode. But basically, that's the career that I studied for. I went to school, I did become finance, I did CPA, and I worked, I got job experience. Then felt the whole thing was not for me. And I will be back with the transition and how it's going. That's it. Thank you for being here. See you on the next one.